At my wedding, a video of my fiancé cheating was exposed. My wedding was just around the corner. I brought my parents and soon-to-be in-laws over to see the new place. They wandered the rooms, taking in the layout. Then came a sharp, piercing scream from the master bedroom. It wasn't my mother's voice. I set down what I was holding and rushed to the master bedroom. My parents' faces had turned ashen. I saw Raphael Lint, shirtless, muscles tense, casually picking up a woman's bra from the floor and tossing it onto the bed. I glanced at the woman in the sheets, just her eyes peeking out. Calmly, I turned around, walked out, and shut the door behind me. After a long talk, I finally convinced my parents and future in-laws to leave. Then I sat in the living room, waiting in silence. Raphael showed no shame. His expression was blank, as if he hadn't just been caught in the middle of an affair. He was handling it well, too well. He spoke first. "This is a marriage of convenience. As long as it looks good on the surface, that's enough. You're free to find someone else to have fun with." I gave a small, contemptuous smile and replied lightly, without hesitation, "Sure." He frowned at my tone, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it. "As long as you're okay with it, I can introduce you to someone. Better to be with someone I know. Less chance of anything going wrong. Rich families have their own kind of filth." Nothing surprised me anymore. I tossed out a final line, "Whatever." Our engagement was born from an old promise between generations. There was never love between us. Even if Raphael were in bed with 3 women at once, I could look the other way. A couple days later, he brought a man to meet me. The guy was good-looking, with sly, fox-like eyes that immediately caught my attention. "Elizabeth, pleasure to meet you. I'm Tom Kelston." I smiled politely. Raphael got a call and left in a hurry, leaving the two of us alone. The silence was heavy. I asked for Tom's contact and made up an excuse to leave. Then came the wedding day. To my surprise, Tom showed up. As I moved through the crowd, he found me and gave my fingers a quick squeeze. I turned to look at him. He leaned in, voice low. "Your husband's mistress? Over there." I followed his gaze. The same woman I'd found in his bed sat among the guests in a bright red dress, her eyes locked on Raphael. When she caught me looking, she smiled, taunting and smug, like I didn't even exist. But I didn't get angry. I didn't care about the Lint family, and Raphael's mistress wasn't even good enough to get through their front door. That was the difference between us. The banquet began. Guests mingled, drinks clinked. There was a screen at the front of the hall. I hadn't even noticed it, until it suddenly flickered to life. 2 faces appeared, then a flood of intimate photos. In every shot, Raphael and his mistress looked inseparable, wrapped in affection. The guests started whispering, their expressions shifting as they realized that the woman in the photos wasn't me. Raphael's father shouted, "Turn that thing off. Whoever caused the mess could clean it up." I wasn't going to stand there under the spotlight, taking in their pity and sneers. Chapter 2. High society never lacks for drama, and thanks to Raphael, I got to be at the center of it for once. I swirled the wine in my glass, took the last sip like it was nothing, and walked away as if I were just another guest at someone else's show. The hotel had rooms prepared for rest. I punched in the code and was about to slip inside when Tom followed me up, pressing his hand against the edge of the door to hold it open. He stepped in. I looked at him calmly. "What are you doing here?" Before he could answer, the keypad beeped again. I froze. For a brief moment, my mind went blank, but Tom grabbed my wrist and pulled me behind the folding screen just in time. The door opened. Raphael stormed in with his mistress in tow. "You could at least pick your moments. Have I been too soft on you?" She looped her arms around his neck, her voice sweet and syrupy. "I just can't stand watching you with that woman." She pouted, asking, "What does she have that I don't?" "Nothing," he said, his hands now snug around her waist. "She's got nothing on you. How do you know?" She giggled, teasing him as she guided his hand under her dress. "Have you slept with her?" His hands were clearly busy. Her soft moan made it obvious. Disgusted, I turned my head away. Realizing Tom was still holding my hand, I tried to pull away. He let go for a second, then grabbed it again. I shot him a glare and yanked my hand back harder, but he just grinned, entirely shameless, and ran his fingers over mine, like he owned them. I was fuming, face burning, ready to curse out loud. He leaned down, lips brushing against my ear. "You'll have plenty of chances to yell at me, just don't get caught now." Before I could shove him away, he turned his head deliberately, his lips grazing the side of my face. He shut his eyes. I nearly kicked him. Unfortunately, I kicked the folding screen instead. Behind it, the sounds of kissing, wet and obnoxious, like an old lady chewing on oranges, came to an abrupt stop. Raphael approached. He had his lover. I had mine. Fair play. Fueled by pride, I reached around Tom's neck and lowered my voice to a firm, even tone. "Kiss me." His lips were cool and soft. The screen was yanked aside. I looked up and locked eyes with Raphael. He stared, shocked. Then with a growl, he punched the screen to the ground. "Everything's blowing up outside, and here you are, making out carelessly," he roared again. "You've never been kissed before? Had to pick this moment? What was he, a double-standard idiot?" I gave a slow, sugary smile and replied in a sing-song voice, "Oh, weren't you also kissing your lover?" His mistress lost it. She stormed up and yelled in my face, "Who do you think you're insulting? A woman like you has no shame. Raphael marrying you is the worst thing that's ever happened to him." I didn't bother sparing her a proper look. I was the bride, and she came in a red dress trying to steal the show. "You talking about virtue?" I sneered, glancing at her exposed lower half. "You were groping Raphael's. What was it again?" "Yeah, real virtuous." She choked, speechless. I turned to fix Raphael's wrinkled tie with a gentle smile. "Thanks, honey, for introducing me to my boyfriend. I like him a lot. His kisses are real sweet. But yours? Not even a dog would want them." Raphael was furious, practically shaking, but he'd brought shame to both families. And now, the Lint family owed me, big time. Chapter 3. Losing a bit of face in exchange for cold, hard cash? I came out ahead. After the wedding fiasco, Lint Group's stocks dipped. His parents demanded damage control. He had to show up with me in public. We were to play the loving couple, put on a show. Raphael might be reckless, but he knew how to weigh consequences. Even when he hung out with his usual pack of rich idle friends, he brought me along. The others followed suit, girlfriends in tow. We ended up around a poker table. 4 women, 1 table. Everything went smoothly. But at some point, 2 of the men joined in. Tom took the seat across from me. Raphael sat to my right. The dynamic shifted the moment they sat down. I wasn't good at poker to begin with, and now, the pressure was heavier. The 2 men dominated the table. It was my turn to deal. I checked my cards, praying for a decent hand. Tom pushed 2 chips forward and drawled, "Raise." My stomach tightened. Before I could fold, his fingers closed over mine. He plucked the card straight from my grip, still warm from my touch. Then he laid down his hand with a smirk, his gaze locking onto me. "Mrs. Lint, you've got lucky fingers." The way he said Mrs. Lint sent a sharp twist through my ribs. Hand after hand, Tom kept pulling the same stunt, calling a bluff just as I drew, snatching cards from me without hesitation. Once or twice could have been a coincidence, but by the 5th time, it was too deliberate. The whole table knew something was up. He was pushing every boundary he could. I forced a smile and kicked him under the table. Raphael, sensing the tension, tossed his cards down in disgust. "Boring. Let's play something else." The others complained the group was too small. They made a few calls and moved the party elsewhere. With Raphael playing his role and Tom circling like a hawk, I couldn't relax. When we got to the new place, Raphael's mistress showed up too. It was the most ridiculous circus I'd seen in ages. Someone gave a knowing glance and suggested a game, tissue relay. I sat on Raphael's left. His mistress sat on his right. Tom sat beside me. Raphael's mistress folded the tissue a few times and leaned close to Raphael. He hesitated, then leaned forward and bit the edge of the tissue. Turning toward me, his expression was unreadable. There was resistance in his eyes, but also a flicker of anticipation. If I took that paper, we'd practically kiss. Disgusting. The piece of tissue passed from his mouth would be barely the size of a thumbnail. If Tom wanted to keep the game going, he'd practically have to kiss me. How was I supposed to play that? Then I noticed a phone camera pointed at me. Someone was trying to film me kissing both men. To spread it around probably. Paint me as the wild wife gone rogue. I didn't know who started it, but if I was already in the game, I wasn't going to back down. I downed the drink in front of me and stood, slow and steady, ready to smash that phone to pieces. But I tripped, 1 foot over the other, and stumbled back, landing right in Tom's lap. He didn't miss a beat. He said playfully, "What are we playing in my lap now? More exciting that way?" Raphael's face twisted like he'd swallowed a fly. He grabbed my arm and dragged me out.